Hello everybody and welcome to Crit Role Conspiracies, the show where we talk about all the wild and wacky theories that critters have about Campaign 3 of Critical Role. Before we go any further, this is your spoiler warning. This video contains spoilers for episode 7 of Campaign 3, as well as some spoilers for other campaigns and other content that Critical Role has put out, because there are some connections that we need to talk about. So if you're not up to date, go and catch up and then come on back. All right, let's get into it, friends. So we're gonna talk about Travis. But first, before we do that, I want to talk about the amazing new intro that we finally have for Critical Role. I was obsessed. I've watched it several times since and I love it. I think it's perfect, it's beautiful, it really captures the vibe of Critical Role, and it's just very exciting to see the leaps in production value every single campaign. They're just doing amazing things and I couldn't be more thrilled. The thing though that had me like gasping and screaming at my screen was that Robbie was in the intro. Robbie was in the intro. We've never had a guest in the intro before. And yes, Robbie has been billed as a special guest. I talked about it in the last video about how I don't think Robbie is going to be around for the full campaign, but the fact that he's in the intro makes me wonder, is Dorian going to be a recurring character that we're going to see much more often than sort of perhaps just for this one arc? Kind of like the way Ashley was jumping in and out of the first two campaigns, you know, based on her work schedule, maybe that's what we're going to see with Robbie as well. Another idea is that we're going to see that intro spot that Robbie was in actually edited every time they have a new guest. It was only like a 1 to 2 second little snippet, so potentially they could film a little snippet for every guest that comes in and edit that in. It does seem like a lot of work, but maybe, you know, if we're getting characters that are sticking around for multiple episodes, they are considering that as, you know, worth doing. Whatever the reason, I hope that it means we get more Robbie because he is just fantastic and he has such great chemistry with the cast, and I love Dorian, so hopefully it means good things all round. I'm really curious to know why they have gone with like a jungle explorer vibe for this intro rather than, I guess, like a standard fantasy setting. Is this hinting towards some potential jungle adventures in the future? Or did they just pick it because it's like a really fun theme that we haven't done yet? It gave me some real Jumanji vibes. I'm all about that. That was like one of my favorite movies as a kid. Okay, we can't go any further without talking about Travis. To be honest, I was actually convinced that we were not going to see him this week. Some clever critters noticed that in the ad spot, there was no fourth mic on the second table. Like it hadn't been mic'd up for a fourth player at the table. So I was like, oh, well, that means that Travis is probably not going to be here tonight. They would have set up a mic if, you know, he was going to be at the table. We're probably going to see him next week. Plus, I was just incredibly confident in my theory that Travis was going to be playing Ashard Brescio, which I've stated a few times in these videos, and this is somewhat embarrassing. I had a bet with a lovely member of my Discord server, Awaken, who did not believe that Travis was going to be playing Ashard when I did. So the bet was that if I was right, Awaken would gift 25 subs to my Twitch channel. Hey, I stream regularly on Twitch, you should check it out. But if Awaken was right, I would have to do this. Awaken is the king and/or queen of Critical Role conspiracy theories. I was wrong, and they were right. So demeaning. So yes, sadly, Travis will not be playing the Anger, putting to rest a lot of theories about him playing a blood hunter, werewolf type character. That's not to say that the Anger is not a werewolf type character. That could still be true. It's just that Travis is not playing him. As we know, Travis is playing Chetney Pekope, a gnome rogue. I am very excited to have a rogue. I was hoping for a rogue. It just makes sense with the party makeup that we have, and it's gonna be really fun to see Travis get that sweet sneak attack damage. Now I have to say, I have to hand it to, once again, the clever critters in my Discord who did some sleuthing, and actually we were discussing the name Chetney during the week before the episode aired, because Critical Role has registered for a bunch of trademarks of all the different character names for this campaign, and there was one name that we hadn't seen pop up yet, which was Chetney Pekope. So well done everybody on the sleuthing. Theory confirmed within a few days. Now those of you who are familiar with other Critical Role content might recognize this character concept of Chetney, an old gnome with a very adorable voice, I must say. very similar to the character Chutney from the Christmas one-shot that I think aired like a couple of years ago. And I believe Chutney also made an appearance in an episode of Narrative Telephone. So the question is, did Travis enjoy playing Chutney so much that he made a character with just a similar name as a bit of a nod to that character? Or are Chetney and Chutney somehow related and we're getting some cross-canon, cross-universe inception happening? Well, luckily, Matthew Mercer has once again come to our rescue with a tweet shortly following the show, stating that Travis enjoyed playing Chutney so much in the one-shot that he wanted to give a true and legit spin on the characters. So Chetney is going to be sticking around for the long haul, and honestly, I love it. I love that we're getting another kind of old man character. Hopefully this one will stick around a little bit longer than the previous. Now, a little detail in the character art for Chetney is that the tattoo that he has is a crown with RTA written in it. So come on, in the comments, I want to hear your theories about who this RTA could be. But you can really tell that Travis is having a great time with this character, and I think it's going to be really fun to see all of that roleplay come out in the future. So yes, Travis is back. Very, very exciting indeed. If you enjoy these videos, don't forget to subscribe. Most of you who watch these videos are not subscribed, and it would actually help me out a lot. We're almost about to hit 4K. Which is kind of wild, so don't forget to subscribe because then you will also see when I post a new video, which would be great. So moving on, this week I think it was a little bit of a slow burn. We sort of had an investigating episode where the characters mainly spent most of the time at the Dreamscape Theatre looking for clues about these disappearances. We met a couple of characters from the Dreamscape Theatre. We meet Stuvan, the proprietor of the theatre, who seemed a little bit shady but also did seem to genuinely want to know what was happening with the people who were disappearing. We meet Ocampo, who is the sort of stage manager. And they also meet Tefta, the kind of accounts manager for the theatre, and she takes quite a liking to Orem, which borders on uncomfortable. We get a lot of fun theatre references and general silliness. While this is happening, Lordna and Orem are actually tailing somebody that they saw kind of lurking around in the theatre, who has a similar grey cloak to someone that they saw when they met with the Corsairs. So I'm going to assume that this is probably another member of the Corsairs kind of tailing them to keep an eye on what they're up to and to sort of probably find out a little bit more about their relationship with Lord Estros, given that Yash was a little bit put off by their involvement with him. Unfortunately though, we don't learn anything else because they quickly lose sight of this person. Eventually, the party ends up in an alleyway behind the theatre where they get to fight this wall mimic. I had a little bit of a look at the mimic's stat blocks, at least the giant mimic stat blocks, which has the multi-attack, which seems to be what they were fighting. However, there was that like kind of acid spit ability that happened at one point. So I think Matt has probably taken this stat block and kind of beefed it up a little bit to make sense for the larger party. After this battle is over, we learn that the Treshy House, did I say that right? We learn that the Treshy House Masons Guild was seen doing some like renovations around this area. So are they responsible, or were the construction workers eaten by the mimic before they had a chance to actually do their work? Could this be related to Duggar and the weird stuff that we saw there, or is it just kind of a coincidence that there is a monster in an alley? I mean, sometimes there's just a monster in the alley. But it seems like potentially someone could have a grudge against the theater. That's why they put this thing right there. Imogen did find little orbs embedded in its skin, which make me wonder if it was those were like objects used to control the mimic and, you know, like maybe subdue it so that you could put it somewhere and then sort of let it loose on the general populace. It seems like there's probably a little bit more to this story than we're seeing on the surface, so I'm assuming they're probably going to investigate those orbs next week. What do you think they could be? Let me know in the comments below if you have any ideas. Before we depart from the theatre, I've got to give a little shout out about that poster for the one-man show of Scanlan Shortholt to kill a god. Maybe one day we'll get blessed with that one-man show. That would actually be super amazing. So I'm putting it out into the universe. Please. Okay, so those are all the kind of new things from this week, but let's talk a little bit about some of the theories that you've had about last week's episode in my YouTube comments. Of course, all we could pretty much talk about last week was Lordna and the reveal that Delilah Briarwood is her patron. Some of you, though, in the comments believe that this is actually a bit of a red herring, that it's not actually Delilah, And Laudner just assumes that it is. A lot of you have pointed out that the voice acting that Matt did for Delilah was actually incredibly similar to the voice acting for Vecna, who was the big bad of Campaign 1. Potentially, Vecna is sort of pretending to be Delilah for some particular reason. I'm actually not up to date on Campaign 1, so I kind of know who Vecna is, but I'm not up on all the ins and outs, so please feel free to add some more details in the comments below. I think a lot of people are questioning the fact that we got such a big reveal so early on in the campaign, that maybe it is a red herring so that we all kind of fixate on it and don't see the true answer. But also, I want to offer a bit of a counter to that in that they have an animated series coming out next year which focuses on the Briarwoods. So it would make sense from a business perspective that they will want to drop in some references to the Briarwoods so that people who are brand new to Critical Role this campaign will have some interest and some investment in learning more about them. I think it's actually really interesting examining some of the story choices that Critical Role makes through kind of a business lens about what it would mean for a business decision to make that story choice. But anyway, that's a whole other thing. Unfortunately, it seems like we probably won't get too much more information about Delilah anytime soon. I think until she becomes a problem for the party, we're probably not going to get much more exposition about that. We also have the unanswered question about what that note was that Ashton got last episode. I actually forgot to talk about it last week because there was just so much stuff that happened. But yeah, Ashton received this note which they shared with Imogen, heavily redacted, so essentially not really giving us any information at all. That is a question that remains unanswered, and we didn't really get any more info about that this week. So still lots of mysteries and lots of things to discover. As always, let me know your theories in the comments below. I sometimes can't respond to every single one, but I do read every single one, and they're all fantastic. Don't forget, if you want to keep the conversation going, you can join my Discord, where we have a whole Critical Role section dedicated to chatting about our theories and watching along live when the episode airs. All the details for that are in the description below. I'd like to give a quick shout out to my patrons who help me make these videos. If you'd like to get exclusive behind the scenes content, you can join my Patreon, or you can become a member here on YouTube. Thank you, as always, for the support. I'd like to leave you with a joke that I stole from Lippin in my Discord. That wall was a tough nut. A walnut, if you will. If there's part of the episode that you missed and you want to catch up on, my friend Matthew Perkins does animated recaps of every episode, so go and check out that video if you're interested. That's all for me this week, and I'll see you next time. Bye!